going back to where I said, like, cooking to me is not a therapy. Like, I am replacing one stress with another stress. To me, it's like a very personal sport.
Hi everyone, I am Ken from Now Serving here in Los Angeles. It's time for another virtual author event, and this is an international one again. We are beaming in author Mandy Lee of The Art of Escapism Cooking. Mandy is the founder of Lady and Pups on the Angry. Can I use the term angry food blog?
I am an angry food blog, yes.
Hi, Mandy. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
Mandy takes the record for the authors staying up the latest to do one of these. It's currently 2 a.m. in
2 a.m.
Hong Kong. Yeah.
Which is my normal hour, so.
Yeah. This is actually her circadian rhythm is at her peak right now. So.
Exactly.
Chatting with Mandy today about The Art of Escapism Cooking is our dear friend of the shop and co-owner of Baru is Mina Park. Hi, Mina. Mina's here in Los Angeles with us.
Hi, everyone.
We're so excited to have the two of you talk. If you are tuning in for the first time to one of our events, we really love the conversation between the author and our moderator. But if you have any questions, and we love questions from everyone tuning in, please put them in the Q&A, and we'll get to those a little bit later on in the talk. So again, we're really happy to do this. And when Mandy's book came out last year, we were kind of thinking about how to do a talk, but this obviously it was in the before everything has happened in 2020. But now we're doing it. So Mandy, thank you. And Mina, take it away.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to do this with Mandy. Mandy and I were friends when I also lived in Hong Kong. And we had talked when her book came out in October of last year of doing something for her book tour at the time. So I'm so glad we can finally do this, even though it is 2 a.m. for her.
I know.
But I do know that she's a night owl and that, she would be up at this time.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us. So Mandy, I think.
Hi.
Hi.
This is so strange, Mina.
It's so weird. I'm asking questions as if I don't really know. But I think obviously right now we have almost 40 people have joined. And so I'm not sure how much they may know about you and your blog. Obviously they must know something because everybody's interested. So maybe we could talk a little bit about your book and this idea of escapism cooking, because now we are 6 months in the US, at least 6 months into pandemic and lockdown. And this concept of escapism cooking is so perfect. And I think so many people have fallen into this kind of escapist cooking as a way to make it through the pandemic. But I would love to hear from you, and I'm sure other people would love to hear from you in your own words, kind of how you started this whole journey of escapism cooking and your kind of approach to cooking.
So I've always loved cooking. Like, I didn't start cooking because moving in Beijing and, like, I was really depressed living there and so on and so on. People who ever been to my blog or follows my Instagram would know that this book or even my blog was kind of emerging out of, like, I often say, like, the misery of living in China. And then, but I've always cooked as a hobby, and I'm used to spending a lot of time in the kitchen anyways. And then when we moved to Beijing, for the first 2 years, I tried to look for a job and then decided that I'm just not cut out doing a regular job in Beijing. I think I'll probably kill myself. And then, so I found myself being at home all the time and just cooking all the time. And then at the time, I didn't really think of it as escapism cooking. Like, it didn't came to me like I was escaping anything. It was just like, oh, I'm at home and I can oftentimes I do cooking. And then and then as time goes, I felt like I'm starting to develop this really sick relationship with cooking, is that I don't really cook because I want to eat it anymore, or I don't cook because I want to feed my family or my husband anymore. It's almost like I cook because I don't want to go outside.
Right.
Or like I wanted to distract myself from, you know, this unpleasantry of being living in Beijing. And then 2 years in, my husband was like, before she divorces me, I better find her something else to occupy her mind. And so he was like, why don't you start a blog? And I was like, oh great, I'll be a loser for the rest of my life. And I want to be honest with you, because I talked about this in the book too, like starting a blog to me, it wasn't like I'm barely a millennial, I'm like 40 years old. So like, you know, at the time starting a blog to me is like, oh great, you know, I'll be this like nobody who you know, talk about their coffee, you know, every day. And then like, but then like at the time I was so desperate, I just thought like, okay, fine, I always make food and I come up with new recipes, but I never remember the recipes when I want to make it again. So why don't I just think about it as a sort of a journal, a cooking journal, and then, you know, just for my own benefit. So then that's how I started. And then yeah, when I think it was 2000, I think 4 years in, or so, I think no, or 3 years in, and then a book agent came to me and then asked me whether or not I'm interested in writing a book. And that's when I started to think about the term like escapism cooking, because I realized that's what I have been doing. And I don't know if this relates to people in and then in a strange way, when I came up with the word escapism cooking, or when I wrote this book, I never thought, you know, the world would eventually fall into this strange situation that we're living in. And then yeah, so then like to me it's like I'm not trying to teach anybody to like how to be an escapist cook. I'm not trying to teach anybody how to like find zen in cooking. To me, like cooking is not zen at all. Cooking is actually really stressful to me. Yeah. So like for me it's like, yeah, I'm not trying to preach anything. I'm just really wanted to organize and document my thoughts and about this very difficult time that I've been through, and kind of a closure for myself, the book really. So yeah, so I'm glad that, you know, all of a sudden it's became quite relatable to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think because when, you know, reading your blog and also reading, I mean, you're an amazing writer, and
Thank you.
Stories, yeah, just incredible. The stories that you share in the cookbook, you know, when I first read it, when it came out last fall, you know, I was of course blown away. But now kind of going through your book again in the middle of the pandemic, while we are all, you know, so many of us are stuck at home,
Right.
the kind of emotions that you are sharing really openly, I think are, you know, a lot more people can really relate to this kind of frustration and some of the sometimes anger, or, you know, all of these types of things I think become even more poignant as we are, you know, sort of months and months into 2020. But whether or not you intended it, your book does provide such a wonderful escape. And so, you know, I think it's been really fun to look through your book for many reasons, which we'll go into a little bit later. But so now, since, I mean, Hong Kong has been struggling with the pandemic for even longer than the US, and has gone through different phases of lockdown and things. Has your approach to cooking changed in any way because of the more kind of global nature of what's happening, or has your cooking kind of, what's changed here maybe?
Well, I think that I don't think, well, I've always been, because I lived in Beijing for 6 years, and during that 6 years, I barely leave my apartment. So I'm so used to this way of life that like the pandemic really didn't change my schedule or like my routine at all, because I was just like, I'm so used to like staying home and like, you know, like going out only just to get groceries, you know, or like going out only because I must, To a lot of people, that's like, a horror. And then to me, that's just like, oh, that's just normal. So people ask me like, oh, how has your life changed? I'm just like, not at all. But like, but in terms of my relationship with cooking, I would say like, I left Beijing in 2016. So that was 4 years ago. And obviously, if you've been following the news, Hong Kong politically has changed a lot in those 4 years. But in relatively speaking, in comparison, it's still quite very, very different from living in mainland China. So like, I feel like a big part of the stress of living in China has been lifted. And then like, I feel like even though I am still at home all the time, I don't really like, my head is not filled with negativity like 24/7 constantly, that I need to kind of like yank myself out of that mindset by trying to find something else to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always think that right now, nowadays, or people follow my blog, which I apologize beforehand, but I post recipes less nowadays versus like when I was in Beijing. And it's not because I don't like doing it anymore or anything, but it's just like I only post something when I feel like I have something to say.
Right.
And then right now, when I'm in Beijing, I'm just desperately looking. I'm like it's almost like I need to find something to say constantly because I need this distraction. Whereas in Hong Kong, if something came to me like, oh, that could be a good idea, and I'll put it, to a test, and if it all works out fine, I'll post it. If not, then I don't. I don't get into that grind anymore. Like, that makes any sense. I'm not an addict anymore.
You're not an addict. You're not as angry. So what happens?
I know. No, the angry part. I think I'm born angry, so just like I don't think that that part will ever leave me. Yeah, right. But then I think that like in terms of food, and I've always wanted, when I was living in Beijing, I always feel like I want to be the kind of food blogger who only posts when they have something that they feel like that's valuable to say. They're not posting just for the volume sake. Right. But in Beijing, I was just like, no, I have to keep going. Otherwise, I'll fall into a depression. Whereas now I'm just like, I feel like that's okay too. Like, maybe I think it's better that my reader knows that when I post something, whether or not other people think, but I really love that recipe versus like, oh, I'm just putting it out there because I need traffic, yeah,
exactly. I need to keep up with like the
right yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about your recipe process, like the
sure
process? Because I even before we met, I knew your blog and I had tried your recipes, and all of your recipes work so well. And I've had your food even.
Are you being honest now?
No, I'm being totally honest. No,
okay, thank you.
Nice. This is a nice book. No, but your recipes work, which is not a given sometimes. And then also, I've had your food. The recipes are often very, I wouldn't say complicated, but they require time. They require a lot of attention, and even sort of kind of at going through them, they're quite professional. There are a lot of, I would say, like more advanced techniques that you use.
Coming from a professional cook.
No, the recipes are really impressive, and I love how you bring together so many different influences, and it's exactly the kind of food that I personally crave. Oh, there it goes. Okay, sneak dog. Yeah, but now this is you, man. But so I'm very curious about kind of like how if you could walk us through maybe how you create a recipe, like the kind of
of course,
or inspiration, and then they're very meticulous and very detailed, and if we just follow your instructions, we're guaranteed to succeed. So I'd love to hear more about the process.
So I think the best analogy
Sorry.
The best analogy that I've came up so far is like cooking to me is like playing video games, and I don't. Oh, sorry. Are you asking me to pause or just asking Nelly to pause?
She finishes.
So yeah, so the best analogy I can put it is like cooking to me is like playing video games, and I don't play video games, but that's what I imagine people who love playing video games feels about video games, is that I don't do it because there's an end product that I'm going to consume. Like I do it for the process. And then like for people I can't, well, I don't play video games, but I can imagine based on the people I know who play video games, they barely want to play the same game over and over and over again. They play the game one time and they want to move on to the next, they want to move on to the next, and they get bored. Like repetition to them is not an appeal in gaming. So to me, it's very same as like cooking. So when I think of when a recipe comes to me, it never comes to me as an idea, like, oh, I'm gonna make this. It's always like a question. It's like, oh, I don't understand, how does that work, or like how do those come together? And then the processes, the recipe is more like my process of finding the answer.
Okay.
Is that like, like for example, like how come the Spanish, like this type of Spanish bread is very similar to this type of Taiwanese bread, but then how come their consistency is slightly different? So what makes them different? And then the recipe is like my process of like, like searching for that answer, and then answering that answer for myself. It's not because my husband wants to eat it, or it's not because like my children like, it's just like I'm curious. Like for me, curiosity is why I cook. Is because I'm curious about something. And then once that answer is found, I find no desire to repeat it again. Like I hardly cook a recipe twice after I'm happy with it.
Really?
Or at least I'm not interested in doing it twice. Right? So that's why the recipe is the way they are, because like it's very meticulous. It's very like, because I'm in this like maze of like trying to get there, and then I feel like I need to like every clue that I need to explain every clue to the reader, so that they understand how I got there. And not just be like, do this, do that, and do this. So then I feel like if it's really for people who really loves the process of cooking,
right?
And not just because they need sustenance. Like I always feel, if people come to me and be like, oh, can you teach me how to cook? I'm always answering like, well, if you don't enjoy cooking, why cook?
Right.
That's always I say, because I'm just like, like go get takeout or whatever. Like I don't glorify the process of cooking. Like, to me, it's like a very personal sport.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think you referred to it as sport in the book, or maybe articles, and but I think it's fascinating, because when when we do read your recipes kind of step by step, it really is, I feel like we're along the ride with you as you're kind of going through. Your recipes, like you said, are not just like mix these 3 ingredients and then whatever, move on.
Right.
It's very much you're explaining kind of where these ideas came from, and kind of what
I feel like it's actually the toned down version, because like if I just put in every single and that book would be like 4 times as long, and no one wants to read it. And that's why I feel like so I feel like okay, I'm trying to explain it as precisely as I can, but then a lot of things are, that's why going back to where I said like cooking to me is not a therapy. Like I am replacing one stress with another stress. That's why I call it gaming. No one wants to play a game that is just like completely emotionless, and then I'm just like cruising on a highway for like 2 hours, and that's the game, right? Because people want to play video game because of the adrenaline high, right? So to me, like it's like that anxiety of like, oh, is it gonna work? Is it gonna fail? Like that to me is the adrenaline that draws me to it. So and I know that's very different from why most people want to cook. But I feel like there must be some weirdos out there like me who likes cooking just because, you know, they like to torture themselves and like.
I don't know if some people would describe it as torture, but I think there are a lot of people probably right now who are like, you know, have had all of these questions that they've been curious about, and now actually have more time maybe to start exploring. And I feel like, you know, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, when you sort of went through kind of social media, you could sort of see people really explore, like throwing themselves into exploring,
Right.
like sourdough bread or, you know, whatever it was,
Right.
Italian bread, you know, but people really, really exploring. And
I think people who loves to bake sourdoughs
Yeah.
are probably I've never done my own sourdoughs, but like, I think people who loves to bake sourdoughs are probably my kind of people. Like, they love failing. You know what I'm saying?
They're not
Like,
gonna fail.
kind of like, it's like
Yeah.
this like self like torture, or this like unhealthy like toxic relationship with their starter, and like like mutually abusive.
Like a loving relationship. No, I couldn't.
Okay, fine. You can see,
No.
this is why we're different. You see it as loving. I see
I
it
know.
as a
Yes.
toxic
That's why you're the
relationship.
angry food blog.
Yeah, it's like morning and you wake up and they've died on you. Like, no, you asshole. Like, how dare you?
I know, the names you would give your starter would be amazing.
Yeah, I think that's why I haven't went into sourdoughs yet. I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna like, yeah, I've cried. I've you know, been rendered down into a sobbing mess in my kitchen enough times. I don't think I need another bubbling goo that's gonna define who I am. Like, I'm worthless.
I know. I just baked a loaf of bread, but it was not sourdough. It was the kind of no knead bread, like the easiest bread you could ever make.
I think that's what most people are looking for in a recipe. Like, I want to like a fail proof. I want to, you know, tell me like 1, 2, 3, and it's gonna hit every time.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, and there's nothing wrong with that too. But it's just like, you know, like, there's a whole other fun in cooking that, like, I think that, you know, like, people need to explore a little bit. I think failing is good because you only, like, I think like a lot of, I mean, like, during my past interviews, people ask me this question a lot, like, what is your favorite recipe in the book? And I said if I must pick one, it's because like I pick the laksa paella, because I said that's the most unreliable recipes in the book.
Why do you say
And
that?
I said that the reason why it's my favorite, because every time I make it, I'm not sure if it's gonna turn out very well, but every time I learn something about that recipe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every single time when I miss something, I'm just like, it's because this is what I did different from last time. And the difference is so subtle that almost no recipe writers would put that in a book, because that recipe would just be so long, and then no one would because like the mentality of a recipe writer is, they're like, oh, I want people to make this recipe, right? You don't want to put people off, and then be like, okay, if I write it in that way, then everyone's like, holy shit, I must do like 100 things right in order to like arrive. But to me, that's why I like it. It's because like there's so many things that you can learn from your failures, and those failures and those knowledge is going to benefit other recipes that you make from then on, and then that's how you hone your craft, you know, in a way.
Exactly. That's why I think, you know, like I said before, when we're reading the book, like, it seems very professional. Like, your approach is very much like even though I know I think you worked as a teenager in a restaurant, but like the mentality of like a restaurant chef, and to be honest, like maybe a fine dining chef, like somebody who's really trying to find an answer to a question, and that kind of curiosity and kind of relentless pursuit of the answer is really.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know any professional chefs, but I'll trust you. Sure, Mina.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I can flip my hair, I don't have hair to flip.
I know, exactly. So I'll flip it for you. But yeah, no, I think it's kind of impressive, you know, your recipes and like how your approach, I think, is very, like I said, it's sort of like this really like chef mentality that really comes through a lot. And so I know the answer to this, but I just, have you ever thought about cooking professionally or doing events even? And, some people in the before times, there were bloggers who were doing events or had like studios where they had public events and things like that. I know the answer, but what are your
I'm
thoughts?
probably the laziest human being you'll ever meet on this planet Earth. The fact that I squeezed the cookbook out of my ass is a miracle of its own. Like, like I would if I like I need the money, like I'm starving, like and I must do it. Otherwise, I'll starve. Otherwise, I feel like I've never done it before, so I don't know, but from what I've heard, it's a really, really stressful job. I mean, actually, like when you were in Hong Kong, you do all these like pop-up dining, and I actually visited you once.
Yeah, with Martha.
And it was like 30 people or something. I don't remember, but yeah. And then I remember I was just like, holy shit, I would pee myself. Like if I were you right now.
Actually.
I know. I was just like, what the fuck? How do you do this? This is insane. I would just like, I would fake a car accident just to get out of it. I'll like run in front of the bus and be like, ah, shit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's just so stressful. It was like, I don't know how people do this. And then like, I feel like in a way, and then this is why I can't even do dinner parties. Like it's not even like
when I came over one time and you were a little bit like,
I was so stressed out. Oh, the dim sum part.
But the food was
that thing is
perfect.
I was like, I'm gonna make everything that's pre-made, and then the only thing I need to do is steam them.
I know. I loved how your freezer. So, okay, for everybody's benefit. So, Mandy invited a couple of people over for dinner, and her freezer is stocked with all of the creations that she had been working on. So, there were so many different types of dumplings and bao and like little amazing morsels of deliciousness. And she just pulled them out. I was like,
I know.
Dream freezer.
I lost all memories of that event because I was so stressed out. I was like, how do people do this?
You were running around like you were stressed out, but the food was wonderful. It was so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, but in a way, I feel like by doing a cookbook, it's kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna put my recipes out there, and then if people don't like it, I'm not gonna hear about it, so that's fine. Like like la 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 la. So that's like a lot less stressful. He's like, I don't hear you. Yeah. So. Yeah. Whereas like if you serve people the food that you cook, the immediate reaction to me is like, oh my god, the stress of that is insane.
There is a moment where you're like, oh, I really hope people like the food that that we've made, but
yeah,
the thing is not everybody will like everything, whether it's
right.
You're not going to please everybody, I guess, as long as you know that it doesn't become too personal, but yeah, you do want everybody to like it. So
yeah, I feel like my insecurity is too like raging. Like it's like I'm just like the raging insecurity to a point that I'm just like, no, I can't accept criticism.
No, but they're different obviously avenues for people to cook, and so you're focusing on the process, and like I can just imagine you at home, but now your home has completely changed now. Actually, about that briefly. So if people follow Mandy on Instagram, have seen her beautiful kitchen that she renovated. Your entire flat completely changed. So it's completely different from when I last saw it, but it's beautiful, your kitchen. So it must be such
Thank
a joy
you.
to be locked down in that space.
Yeah. I mean, like it's much bigger than the one before, and like I think I decorated it in a way that it doesn't feel like it's in Hong Kong, which is on point. I want to feel like I'm not here.
And feel to it,
Yeah. So it's kind of like, so my whole life is a lie. It's all a lie. None of this is real. No. Yeah. Pour myself like a cappuccino and be like, hello, I'm in France. No, you're not, bitch.
Well, I think
sorry, am I allowed to? I feel like Ken is like peeing his pants right
Yeah. Well, I don't know if any children probably dialed in, let's say. Well, what I think is like, okay, so you say this, you're like, oh, everything is fake, it's not real. But actually, you know, obviously your photography, the images that you put forward are beautiful, and you know, they're well crafted and, you know, styled
Thank
and everything
you.
like that. But at the same time, what you're sharing is so open and so real, you know, more so,
Right.
I think, you know, your voice is so unique, kind of in general. So I think it's interesting because you have this visual that's very beautifully put together,
Yeah.
but then your
Schizo.
emotions are completely raw, and you're very open about what you're feeling and often what it took to do that. Or, you know, you're not trying to hide. I mean, I'm not saying people are hiding things, but you're very open about the fact that it's kind of this
Yeah.
crafted image. So
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if honesty is my strength or weakness. I feel like I'm haunted by the idea of being honest. Like I don't, it's almost like I don't it's like almost like I don't want to lie to the point that is an like obsessive compulsion. Like I don't like lying, like, you know, and then
that's
the
a good
part of being and it's almost like, oh, if I'm gonna put images, like, you know, like, or tablescape or images or food that I consider to be beautiful, then I'm going to live that way.
Right.
So it's so that, you know, it's so that it's real. Like, you know. Yeah, so then it's like a lot of people have props, and, like, you know, they have stuff that they only use when they're doing photography, and I was just like, no, you know, I'm going to use this moldy spoon. This
Right.
thing that I picked up from a garbage can, just to prove that I'm authentic. Like, no, to almost to a point that I'm obsessive of like living the life that I consider beautiful, just so that I don't have to lie about it, because I feel like if I, and it's also because I'm getting older, like, you know, like I said before, I'm 40 now, and then there's a lot of epiphany that came with creating, well, I guess, like, you know, nice images, is that if I like these images and I think they're beautiful, why shouldn't I live that way?
Right.
Life is so short that, like, you know, why should I, you know, like, deal with, like, why should I eat a plate that I don't consider worthy of being on camera? Or why should I, you know, not use this vintage pot, you know, like, because I'm afraid of damaging it, you know, screw that. Like, I'm gonna just live every moment the way that, like, however that you consider what beauty is, you know, like, whether or not that's European style or Japanese style, whatever, just, you know, just live it, you know. And then I'm just like, life is too short, I'm just gonna live, you know, the life that I wish I'm living.
Right. But
you know, instead of just putting it on
you are living in, then it just becomes merged as one. So
yeah, but I feel like a lot of people they will probably like put on a set, you know, they have a background, and they have a, you know, whatever, like, you know, like a thing that they create to shoot photos of the food. I'm just like, well, just make your whole home look like that.
Yeah.
And then you don't have a set, and then you're living in this image that you consider to be beautiful, and then that's your life, and wouldn't that be great, you know? Yeah.
No, exactly. I'm definitely in that camp. Like, use the good china every day. And
yeah,
just enjoy.
And it doesn't have to be expensive too. Like, Mina, you know me, I'm super cheap. So yeah, so a lot of stuff that
she's very bargain.
Oh, I am notorious. Okay. I am notorious.
Yeah.
The other day, like, there were two people who came in to the apartment for a photo shoot, and they saw a painting on the wall. They were like, oh, you know, is that, you know, blah blah blah. And they're like, how much is that? I was like, guess. And they're like, expensive. I was like, wrong direction. I was like, no. I was like, it's 12 RMB, and then it literally like blew her mind.
Oh my god, you're blowing my mind.
Because like, but it looks vintage. I was like, oh, just scrape the shit out of it with a knife and then pour tea on it, and then that's.
You're very good at the DIY making.
Yeah, I think that's why. I mean, just like, you know, I'm so cheap that I'd rather like go through 10 hours of faking and forging, than like, you know, spending like $200 to buy the real thing. I'm just like.
Well, I just remember you gave me like this beautiful spoon, and then actually you didn't like, it was kind of this old sort of Chinese style spoon,
Right.
hand hammered that you bought.
Yeah.
And then, but you didn't like kind of like the trim that was kind of around.
Yeah. And then I would buy like I would get like those like electric tools, and I would sand it down myself, and But I'm lucky in a way that I have a lot of time, so.
Right. But now more people have time. But unfortunately, we don't have access to Taobao, so that's too bad.
Right, that is true. But yeah, I always say buy secondhand. I love, you know, buying secondhand, and you know, so. But yeah, so just, you know, live your best life. That's my advice. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I think when I went over to your house for the very first time, I was definitely struck by that it was like, oh, actually what Mandy presents is very much what her kitchen, you know, in the before renovation times, but like very much what looked like everything. It was very beautiful, so beautifully presented.
Thank you.
Always. So let's see, so you've been doing this blog now for 8 years.
Right. Oh my god.
It's been, and I think, you know,
I'm gonna have to look for like a hospice home soon. Like, I'm so old. I'm dying.
It's incredible how long it's lasted, but obviously kind of blogging has changed so much since, you know, sort of
actually I read that question that you sent me. You said that blogging has changed so much, you know, what do you feel about, and I was just like, oh, it has changed. I was like, what happened?
Exactly. Oh, you didn't hear, Mandy? Oh, sorry.
I was like, what has changed? What's going on?
No, but
did I miss something?
No, but like, so I remember, because I'm also older, is the times of like in the early 2000s reading blogs. So like, I don't know if Heidi Swanson joins this mic, but you know, I used to read like 101 cookbooks, like, you know.
Right. I love her blog too. Yeah.
Her blog is so great. And obviously from that time, you know, you'd read these posts or whatever, and now there's like social media, there's Instagram, and now, you know, I know you've done some kind of live, like Instagram live events and things like that, or maybe some video work on and off or something like that.
I've been doing some cooking demo. Yeah.
So I feel like the direction is, you know, going towards like a more interactive experience.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's just my own view.
Right. So, well, yeah, in that sense, I don't mind it. I mean, I don't particularly like speaking to a camera. Like, to me, that doesn't really come naturally. But I think that, like, in a way, like, there are a lot of things about cooking that is very visual, that you can only kind of learn something from just watching it from the whole process, even though the blog has, like, you know, all the process photos there, but then still you might miss something. And then sometimes, like, you know, your hand gesture and how you do it. So I feel like the interactive part, I don't particularly love doing it, but I think, like, I don't mind it. Like, I feel like, oh, that's just another way of getting information out there. And then I think that, like, the whole, like, you're even more connected to the people who follows you, or, like, you know, you're even in a way, like, I feel like it's very strange that, like, people call it community, but I feel like I would just say, like, are these like strangers who are kind of like, you have, you know, you've never met and you don't know who they are, but then they're kind of your friends too, and they know a lot about your life. And then to me, like, you know, I don't mind it. Like, obviously I'm not a very private person, so I don't mind that part. And I think that, like, I think in especially in the climate right now, you know, with the pandemic, and then also with actually just me being me, like, I'm being a very homebody, I don't really go out a lot. I think it's good that at least for me, I think like it's probably healthy for me to have that kind of extra layer of social interactions with human beings, like
Not just your puppy. Yeah.
not just my dogs. And then like, yeah, eventually I just turn into this like, yeah, social weirdo. Yeah. So in that sense, I don't mind it. Yeah. I don't, yeah. So, but I don't really follow the trends of blogging, or I don't really follow like, oh, what's happening on Instagram now. Like a lot of people are like tracking on the algorithms and like, like how they, how they calculate. And I don't really care about all that. Like to me, it's just like, if I see someone doing it, I'll be like, oh, I really like what this person's doing. But oh, I'll try doing that too. Like, I don't really like, like try to do everything that's required.
Okay.
That what a blogger is supposed to do. Yeah. But then I just do the bits and parts where like I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I can do that. Yeah. So yeah.
So what's the next step for Lady and Pups? You've written this book, and like you said, you're not posting as often, but you're still posting. And so do you have kind of a vision of what the next step is?
You're mistaking me with someone who plans.
Okay. With what you
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
And that's an honest truth. Like, yeah, like I'm not this like career ambitious kind of person. Like I feel like I just go with the flow.
Right.
Like, and I feel like, and I'm gonna say like I'm lucky that I'm able to say this because I'm not like, like financially stressed to a point that I need to like, but like I don't do it as a business. Like I never looked at the blog as a business. Like even now I still don't look at it as a business. I look at it as a hobby. And then to me it's like a hobby. You do it when you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then when you don't enjoy, you find the next hobby. Like, like to me, like I don't really put stress on like, how I'm going to, grow this into the next empire or something. Like to me it's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm growing more mature now. Oh my God. Like, I don't feel like, I don't think chasing that is very healthy.
No.
Especially like nowadays with the social media thing, like, like I feel like, yeah, it's just, if something comes to me, I'll do it. If not, then that's fine too. Yeah.
No, I think that's the perfect approach, right? Because you can easily go down this rabbit hole of like, yeah, one, what is everybody else doing? Two, like, I mean, you've
right.
Beautiful book, and like you said, sort of every recipe is just kind of like a journey for you to find the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't write this book to kick off anything. Like I wrote this book because I needed to write it. Like I feel like I left Beijing in such a mental like chaos and kind of this entanglement of like emotions that I kind of needed to like categorize it and then put it down in words and then sort it out in a way that kind of like, so that it makes sense to me. Like I feel like I'm a very, I think I'm pretty good at managing my emotions, so to speak. Like, so the way that I do it is I'm very logical. I need to like, put it down to words. I need to psychoanalyze myself to like, why did I feel like that? So the book to me, it's more like I did it for myself. Like I didn't really do it to, boost Instagram followers, or I didn't really do it because like, the blog needs to, I just like feel like I need to write this down. Yeah. And then put it out there, and there's a record, and be like, okay, well, something came out of that shithole, and then they'll be like, okay, that's fine, yeah. So at least something came out of it, and then like, and then I can move on, yeah. So, and then if that leads to something, it's great, but if it doesn't, that's fine too, yeah. I feel like life is. Again, life is so short. I feel like I have this acute awareness of morality. I just feel like life is so short, and I just feel like I'm just gonna be happy. I'm just gonna try as hard as I can to be happy, whatever that is.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I think many people are just trying to do. One, sort of live kind of this moral life and like, you know, basically be authentic to yourself, and do things for your happiness, in a way that like doesn't infringe on other people's happiness, but and then
and then because
joy.
I'm saying that because I'm middle aged. Like I didn't feel like this when I was in my 20s. I am. It's 40. So like I feel like when I was in my 20s, I have a completely different mindset. Absolutely different. Like if I talk to myself right now, I would be like, "Go home, you loser!" Like you know, like my 20s, you know, I would call myself a loser, like you know, and then I would be like, "You useless, worthless piece of shit," and then but then like. Because in my 20s I'm all about like you know like you know go get the goal, like chase it the next level, like you know we're gonna do whatever the fuck it takes, you know. And then in my 40 I'm just like, dude, I could die in 10 years, man. I'm gonna I'm gonna chill out. And I think it's because of Beijing too. Like this mindset is like I went to Beijing because of that mindset. I went to Beijing because I'm like, I'm gonna chase that social advancement, whatever it takes. If that means I have to move to dictatorship country, then that's what it means, you know? And then I went there and then I was just so surprised on the toll that it took on me. And then when I came out of it, I would just be like, this is so not worth it. Like I have so much more now than I did in my 20s, but I am so less happy.
Right.
And like when I was in New York in my 20s, I had nothing. You know, every month is like, you know, like the last week I have to survive on like white bread, right?
Right.
But then now I have like so much more, and then I'm like, but I'm not any more happy. So what is the point of all this? And then it's kind of Beijing kind of gave me that epiphany too, and be like, if you're not happy, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Really beautiful and important thoughts. Mature. I think at least, you know, as people are struggling through the year that is 2020, you know, I think a lot of people are gaining that kind of perspective, like what is important. Like you said, is it like all of these things that we thought we were trying to achieve, and these things we're trying to amass? No, actually. So I think a lot of people
down to the end, it's like, yeah, money can make people happy, but it's definitely not all. It's not everything, right? Yeah, or status, money, all of that, it can aid in being happy, right? But that's not the whole recipe. You know, there's a whole lot more to that. And then if you don't have all the other parts of the recipe, you only have money or status or recognition or followers, whatever, you're still going to be miserable. So if you have to find the other equation, that other parts of the recipe that makes this dish whole, right? Yeah.
Beautiful metaphor, I think, to kind of wrap up before we move on to maybe Q&A. Does that sound good, Ken?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Just want to save time because I think we have a few definitely here. And I think some of them were questions I was going to ask anyway. So here we go. From Yura Lee, she says, "Hi, Mandy. I've been a fan of yours since the beginning when I came across your blog. So happy to see you here. Apart from cooking, I really enjoy your aesthetic and food styling, your decor, your clothes. Is that something that you cultivate? And then what are your influences?" Yeah, I wanted to ask you about like your inspirations.
So if it's different to me, it's kind of put into different categories. If it's just food photography, I don't really think I have, like, for me, it's just, my inspiration is I'm lazy. Like, you know, I can only, like I thought about like, moving a lot of things from my kitchen and then do a flat lay, and then in my head I'd be like, but I have to put them back. So then I'm just like, I'm just gonna do one plate. And then, you know, that's it, you know, like, so to me, it's just like, oh God, like, you know, I can't do that. I'm just too lazy, you know? So, and it became kind of just like, I'm just going to focus on the food and make it look yummy, you know? So food photography for me is like, you know, just minimal, you know, just focus on the food. But it's not because like I have anything against like you elaborate, you know, lifestyle design. It's just like, I'm too lazy to do that, you know? And then in terms of decorations or renovations or all that stuff, and I mean, Mina, you came to my apartments before this renovation, so you know that it's completely different.
So different.
Right. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It was very like, yeah, it was very like your lofty, like rusted
That's
metal
so
and
rusted.
concrete. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was all that. And now it's all like, you like calm the fuck down. Like, yeah.
All of the
So
plastering
to me, that
in
is
the living room looks
right.
very calming. Yeah.
So I mean, I love like Jersey Ice Cream Co. I don't know if you know them.
Mm-hmm.
So there are these like designers in the US and they make like beautiful, I mean, I would totally hire them to come design my house if they're in Hong Kong. But yeah, so that is my inspiration. So I think as I crawl in towards middle age again, my mentality again, going back to like, you know, my young self and, you know, my old self, is like my mindset has changed a lot. Like now I want to just feel relaxed and be peaceful, and you know, like, and then I wanted to create space like that goes back to what you were saying, like, oh, my picture is very, there's a contrast to my caption or my personality, or when you hear me talk, it's because like I need that to calm down, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like I need to walk out there and I'll be like, oh, okay, calm down, like it's all gonna be okay. You know? So I kind of need to create like a more relaxing space nowadays, because I feel like I just you know, I need it. So that's the inspiration. Yeah, but it's kind of different from the food thing. The food thing is more like, you know, I'm too lazy to put things back, so I'm just gonna, you know, yeah. Or sometimes like if you see me like just holding it with my hand and then take a picture like that with my hand in it, it's just like I'm so lazy to even like set the table, and then like, you know, I was like, I'm just gonna hold it and take a photo.
Or make Jason
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or make Jason hold it. Yeah, exactly.
What about, I wanted to ask, what, like, are there any chefs or kind of any chefs that you are particularly inspired by, or you know?
I would love to say, like, honestly, I feel like if people know me, they would know that I don't follow any like Michelin star chefs, or like I don't even eat at Michelin star restaurants. I don't really chase all, like I pretty much, like when I cook, my cooking world is very, very almost like social isolation. Like I'm in my own world. Like, you know, I don't really like get, well, I get influenced, but I don't seek out, I don't like go and then like try to get inspired. I'm very much in my own head. And I feel like because I don't follow any like what anyone else is doing, but if I must like say like, oh, if someone inspired me or not, then I would say like I've never eaten at Thomas Keller's restaurant ever, because that's just too expensive. I would never be willing to pay for that. But I bought his cookbook before, and then the way he approached cooking, he has a cookbook, Home Ad Hoc. I don't know if I pronounced it right or not, but it's like home cooking. But then he says even if it's home cooking, you still need to apply the same rigor to the way that you do recipes. And I feel like that really resonates with me. You know, just like it's you have this like obsession about making something that is good just for the sake of it. And then so, but you know, if Thomas, I don't know, I've never eaten at his restaurant, so if anybody thinks it's not worth it, it's not my fault. I'm not saying his restaurant is great, because I haven't tried it, but I just think that the way he approached cooking is very similar to me. Is that it's not zen at all. It's that's so stressful.
That's why I said earlier, I think like your approach is very much kind of this like fine dining chef mentality, like this search for perfection. And
and then he talked about like even like, oh, you put the way that you put down a fish, like you know, like you can't like have it like put it down on even spaces so that, you know, the meat will like, you know, get bruised up. And no one wants to be that stressful when they cook dinner for their families, right? But then I feel like in my mind it's like, oh, I can totally relate, because I feel like, oh, if I do this, it's gonna like, and then like I feel like that's a very stressful part. But at the same time, it's like I said, it's like playing video games. It's like an adrenaline that comes with it.
No, it's very different. So like my husband Kwon is a fine dining trained chef, and when we are cooking at home, it is a bit, you
want to yell at him?
reach like kind of a good compromise. But yeah, he finds it very stressful when I'm in the kitchen because
You're like, you're not doing it right.
I'm not putting
Get
things
out.
down perfectly and like putting everything away perfectly in the middle of things. So he's sort of like, because he grew up in like, you know, sort of.
Yeah, I can't cook with someone else in the kitchen too. I'll go nuts. I'm just like, leave me alone. Like, you know, this is.
Well, I thought I was bad, but actually, no. Okay, let's go through before we make sure we hit some questions. So Wendy, you asked, are you considering maybe leaving Hong Kong given the current political climate?
Yes.
Really? Yeah.
I'm planning Maxit.
Maxit, exactly.
Maxit
in Hong Kong.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely have a feeling like the Chinese government is chasing me around. I'm just like, why are you chasing me? It's yeah. So the reason why, well, I guess like for people who don't know, like the reason why I couldn't stand living in Beijing is because of the political system, you know, authoritarianism and all that stuff. And then Hong Kong is definitely going towards that direction. Yeah. So I'm definitely planning to leave. But yeah. So going back to like where we were talking, like, you know, I don't think, I was talking to Ken. So yeah, I want to move to Europe. At this point, I'm just like planning my exit to go to the other continent that I've never lived on. Yeah.
I know, exactly. Depending on November. Yeah, the US may not be a good option. So
or the US, yes. Yeah. I mean, I love New York. I would move back to New York in a heartbeat if it wasn't so damn expensive.
yes, exactly.
If I could afford to live there, I would move back to a heartbeat. But yeah. But then it's just like, I don't think so. Yeah.
I totally support your European adventure.
Let's all do it, Mina.
Yeah.
Let's go buy a farm.
All of our dogs running around.
I know.
Oh, someday when we're allowed to travel again. Okay, before we go, let's see what else. Jason Sang says, can you talk about what food has influenced your palate during childhood or during adulthood, like your travels in Beijing? Like what food stands out for you?
Okay, so I feel like this is a benefit of having an identity crisis. Okay, like, so for those of you who don't know, so I was born in Taiwan, so I spent 10 years, my first decade of existence in Taiwan, and then a decade in Vancouver, and then a decade in New York, and then a decade in China. So to me, I don't like, if people ask me where I'm from, I literally don't know how to answer that. I literally don't, because like, I don't feel like I'm from anywhere. And to a lot of people, that's a negative, but to me, that's a positive.
I feel the same way.
I don't owe allegiance to any culture, or I don't have any tribalism that kind of like, you know, ties me to this ideal that I couldn't rationalize my way out of. So I don't have any of that. So the way I cook is like, yeah, I grew up in the reason that the blog and the cookbook is very much Asian influence is because that's where I was living.
Yeah. During
that time, I was living in Beijing when I started the blog, and I was writing this recipe when I'm living in Asia. So it's very, but then say like if I wrote this book in Japan when I was, say if I was living in Japan, or say like South America, then it would take on that flair too. Because like, to me, it's just like, I don't see any boundaries. I don't believe in authenticity, and this is gonna probably rub some people off, right? But like, I don't believe in that, because food has always been a progression. Mm-hmm. Food has never stayed the same. And then I feel like if all the food that we're eating nowadays are fusion, whether you like that word or not, everything that you hold dear to your heart that you think is authentic is fusion. Look at Taiwan. Like, a lot of people think that, oh, you know, I would be, you know, loyal to Taiwanese food. But Taiwanese food was not Taiwanese food 50 years ago before the Japanese occupation. Yeah. Like, Taiwanese food nowadays has so much Japanese influence because of that colonial era. Yeah. So then that only ended like 70 years ago or something like that. So to me, it's like, it's very silly to say like, but that's not authentic, then I mean, like, what's authentic, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting
Yeah.
when you sort of actually really delve into kind of the history of particular foods or even ingredients or whatever, and you sort of see the
Yeah.
migration from like, you know, the tomatoes, chili peppers, or whatever, all around the world.
Exactly. All of those, like, I mean, Italy probably didn't even have tomato, like, you know, a few hundred years ago. And then now all of a sudden, like, if you change something about Italian recipe, they all go like, you know, haywire and they go berserk, right? But I mean, to me, it's like, that's silly. Like, well, in a way, I'm kind of not worried about it, because food will always evolve. Food will always change. It is, no matter what you do, that's what it's going to do. So I'm not worried about that. But yeah, just don't get too worked up about what's authentic, what's not authentic. To me, it's like, does it taste good? That's all that matters.
But I also think
That's all that matters.
you know, you have recipes. For example, you have like this Cory Mex bibimbap. So it's like Korean, Mexican. Oh, are we running out of time?
No, I was about to ask about that.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Okay. Well, do you want to go ahead, Ken, and ask your question?
No, because
I've never
was
been
just
to
like,
Mexico. I just want to say this first. I've never been to Mexico. I've never had
but
mole
I think
before.
Yeah.
the fact that I think it's refreshing to hear someone say that authenticity is overrated, because I think the best thing about your food in the book is you don't. I mean, who thinks of? It's just so amazing to think of like the bibimbap with beef mole, or the Montreal smoked meat with mala and tahini mustard. Like,
Yeah.
it at first you think about it and you're like, that's not going to work, and then you think about the ingredients and the techniques, and you're like, of course, that should actually be really delicious.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone before this, and the appeal about what you do to me is, and I think to a lot of people, is that, you know, in any of these dishes, it's not like, oh, make this and then you can buy a tortilla. Like, you know, you make every single thing. You're crazy enough that you make every single thing in the actual dish.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Because I think it's because, like, I'm so obsessed with, I'm a little bit of control freak. So I want to control like every single aspect of the dish, and I don't want to leave any like you know, like on like any what do you call that, like anything that's gonna be like unreliable, and then like people make it, they're like, oh, but then it's not good, or maybe I'll be like, but it's because your rice is different. Like, to me, it's like I want to sort of control every aspect to the point that I'm just like, if you make it exactly this way, it's gonna taste pretty okay. Like, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I do think like on the authenticity point, what I think is very clear though from your recipes is your absolute respect for all of the different cultures that you're drawing from, because it's super well researched. And what I think is amazing is you do kind of link things together, for whether it's like paratha with a scallion bread, or, you know, that kind of thing. It's like or scallion pancake, you really kind of you really show, I think, a lot of commonalities but you do a lot of research. I don't know, the respect thing I think is very important. Yeah. I
think it's because I think that's the part of, I think that's I would say that's the Taiwanese of in me. It's that, like, because I have this Taiwanese background, and I never thought about how Taiwanese food nowadays came about. And then after I started to cook, and I started to think about it, I realized how influenced it was from Japanese culture. And then that was only like such a short while ago. And then in my mind, especially, I think if you travel, you will realize that every single place, like the cuisine that you eat, and it's some kind of a fusion. Mm-hmm. It's all some kind of, and then in my mind, I would just be like, so what if there's like a huge immigrant population of Thai in Italy? What kind of food they make? You know, and in my mind, just like, food always finds a way.
Yeah.
Food always finds a way. That, like, it, even if like the two cuisines doesn't you can't even imagine it being together. If you put those two communities together and then force them to melt, they will, and then something amazing will come out of it. So I feel like, yeah. So I think it's a shame that people don't don't investigate that more. Yeah.
No, but I think your cookbook is like an incredible investigation.
Thank you.
That, and I don't know, Ken, a time or
let's do another question from the viewers.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's see. Hannah Wong asked about your kitchen, which I think we talked about designing, and then Franz asked about doing pop-up dinners, which I think we covered a little bit. So and your love of cooking for big groups,
entertaining.
And then let's see. So Michi asked, do you have a big mainland Chinese fan base? Like, do you have people reached out to you from the mainland?
I'm gonna say 0.
Really?
Well, at least no one that I know of. I've had a few haters though.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah.
How vocal you?
Yeah, I would say no, because WordPress is not allowed in China. So my website is built on WordPress. So I actually need a VPN, which is the thing that you bypass your firewall every time I want to post something. So yeah, I think I'm gonna say no.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's see. Jason saying, so that's this for Mina and Kent. Oh, what is the one recipe you like in the book or the blog, and why?
Oh, so then
what
we touched up on that. Oh, from you? Oh, okay.
Or Kent. Yeah. Well, like I said, I have tried your recipes for not obviously all the recipes from your cookbook yet, but getting there. It's so hard to pick because, like I said before, the food that you cook is the food I like to eat, like the kind of food.
Right.
The mix of things, the mix of different cultures, and then just the way you do it is incredible. What's my favorite recipe? So hard to say. I would say the soloist, like the biang biang mian kind of recipe.
That's what everyone. The question you sent me in the email. Yeah.
It's hard to
At least that's what the one that I've seen made the most on social media by people. Yeah.
Interesting. Everybody loves the noodle pool, I guess, but yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I miss it, and so that's wonderful. But yeah, it's hard to pick one. Ken?
I mean, for flipping through this, it's you kind of like every picture and every recipe. You're like, oh, that sounds good. That looks good. But right now, I'm just staring at the and I love how it's a play on. It's your like. Take
that's one of my favorite.
On the water cooked fish.
Yes, water cooked fish. What a deceiving name.
Right. No. I know. I always when I first saw that dish, I was like, oh, this could be something like in a Sichuan restaurant. I was like, oh, this is something my mom could take because it's not spicy. And then you realize,
and then the camera is like this raging, like nuclear looking.
But the fact that like you were just talking about Thomas Keller and French technique, and the fact that you introduce like these old school classic French fish canals, and then you add the Sichuan flavors to it. It's down like I'm salivating right now.
That one is one of my favorite. Yeah, that one is. Yeah, I would suggest. Yeah, if people want something that's probably not gonna turn out too bad, I think that one is a pretty safe bet.
There's so much in here. Like,
how bad can it be?
Pizza. There's like pizza in here, and there's all the noodles. I mean, it's just awesome.
Mochi.
So
I love mochi.
Oh yeah. Mochi needs a PR. Needs to hire a new PR in the U.S.
You do?
Oh no, Mochi's definitely.
Really?
Mochi's getting it. Yeah.
Maybe only in LA because of the Asian community. I feel like it's a texture thing that I think Caucasians have a difficult time to get around.
Yeah. And when I came back to the US, actually a lot of people seem to refer to ice cream mochi as mochi. So, and I was
right.
Right, like no, that's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think chewiness is a texture that is hard to.
Unfamiliar to many.
Well, I think
if people.
No, I was thinking it's also grown in popularity because of the gluten-free movement. And so a lot of people are making, you know, things with mochi or rice flour in general for that. So it's really taken off.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Sam Cattle just posted, Mandy's mochi donuts waffle really, really work well and have become gluten-free holiday cookies at his house in DC.
Oh, I'm so glad.
So everybody try the mochi donut waffles. So
I was always amazed that people actually make these recipes.
Well, you have a book now, so people are gonna do it.
Our dedication, yeah. But they look so good.
On that note, Mandy, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
I'm glad that we finally were able to do this. You know, we've been dancing around it in the email ether about getting this down, and you know, Mina is obviously our first choice for this. So Mina, it's great to actually see you without a mask on too. And I love that your dog is asleep behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I wish my dogs were like that.
My dog misses Mandy. Mandy was so sweet to her.
So,
Oh, Nelly is so cute.
but I want to remind everyone, it's actually our 3-year anniversary sale this weekend, today and tomorrow. I can't believe we're 3 years old. But you can go to nowservingla.com. You get yourself a copy of The Art of Escapism Cooking, and we loved having this conversation. So, Mandy,
Thank you, Glenn.
I'm not
for
sure.
having me.
Of course, I'm not sure when you actually sleep, but get some. You know, I hope you're well.
Well, never call her before, like, you know, in the morning.
It's usually like about 3:30, and then I'm thinking to myself that like I don't want my husband to wake up right now and then notice that, realize that I'm still awake, and then I'm just like, okay, I have to go to sleep now. So
that's what marriage is about, right? So,
yeah.
Mina, thank you. Take care, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye. I hope I'll see you guys in person soon.
Please, that'd be great.
I
Bye.
know. Bye.